Up next, we have Marz Kord. He's the president and CEO of Wallbridge Mining Company. Marz, please turn on your camera, unmute yourself, and go ahead, share your screen. Looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. I hope everybody can see the screen. I'll be making some forward-looking statements, so please review the disclaimer on our website as well. So I'll start by explaining why you should invest in Wallbridge. We've got a multi-million ounce potential demonstrated on our Fenelon property. We have a district-scale land package as a result of the acquisition of Balmoral land on the Thunder Lake Deformation Zone. We have a pipeline of exploration projects and new discoveries in this area. We're in Quebec. It's a top-rated mining jurisdiction, and there's experienced workforce. There's excellent infrastructure to our site, with a road accessible with throughout the year we drill, as well as the hydropower is about 20 kilometers from the Fenelon site. And we're also enjoying the key strategic shareholders such as Eric Sprott and Kirkland Lake Gold and William Day Construction in our property, in our company. Just a bit of information on our shareholder base. Eric Sprott owns about 21%, Kirkland Lake Gold about 8%, William Day Construction roughly around 8%. And where we really see the share performance over the last couple of years has really been as a result of the drill bit success. You can see that on the right-hand side, the chart of the performance and the cumulative meters of drilling that's been done. The flat area is actually due to the COVID shutdown that we had. Well, we are now back to 6 drills continuing to drill on our Fenelon property and the surrounding properties to the Fenelon, which we acquired from Balmoral. We have a very aggressive exploration program this year. Even with the COVID shutdown, we're still maintaining our 100,000 meter program for this year. It's fully funded. We currently have about $42 million of cash in the treasury, and there is still some outstanding warrants and stock options, money that can generate additional cash for the company. Just zoom in as to why I believe this land package is important. And so essentially, with the acquisition of Balmoral land package, we essentially control about 90 to 100 kilometers strike this detour Fenelon gold trend along the Thunder Lake Deformation Zone. We had a gap after the acquisition of Balmoral, and that was actually this area what we call the Castle property, which is optioned midland as well. It's a term on trying to explore this property as well. So now we control the entire belt and the assets in between. On top of that, we have the assets of Balmoral, such as the Highway 810 and some of the properties in Ontario as well, where we're PGM potential. On what we think that we have the multi-million ounce potential on the Fenelon property. Essentially, the Fenelon property currently has this gold system that is strike length of so far demonstrated about 2 kilometers. And we drilled down to about 10 meters, and no drilling has been done below that 850 meters. We've identified 4 environments on this property. Initially, it was the main Gable zone. I don't know if you can see my pointer, but essentially this area where we're on the right-hand side. And this main zone, I'll go into detail about it, basically where most of the previous concentrated their exploration program. So did we.
Marz?
Yes?
Can you turn on your microphone on and off again? The voice is breaking up. I don't know. There seems to be a bit of an audio issue.
Is it better?
Yeah, it seems like an audio connection issue. Let's now you sound fine. Just continue. I'll interrupt you again if it comes back or something. Sorry about that.
No worries. So the main Gable zone was essentially where the previous owners and ourselves concentrated their exploration, and we increased the metal gold, about 300 ounces of gold. And about late 2018, early 2019, we discovered this area just 300 meters south of the main Gable zone. We now have one zone and the acquisition of Balmoral also have this reaper zones 500 meters south of the property that we initially have.
Marz, it's me again. I'm sorry about that. Your audio must have been a connection issue or something. Let's try turning the video off so we could just get your audio. It's a compromise, but it's probably the best if you just talk over it. That way we have some more bandwidth. Let's try that. Thank you.
No problem. Is this better? Can you hear me better, Kai?
Yeah, you sound very clear now. You might have some more bandwidth for voice available now, so should be better.
So the discovery of the Area 51 Tabasco zone, as well as the addition of the properties as a result of the acquisition of Balmoral land in the Reaper Ripley zone, just adjacent to the Sunday Lake Deformation Zone, has so far with the exploration results demonstrated that multi-million ounce potential. In 2019, we drilled a little over 100,000 meters, and this year's program is about 100,000 meters, and there is a strong potential to further expand this mineralization because all zones in here continue to remain open as well as to the south. So I'll talk about the main Gabbro. I'll briefly talk about this because this is the area where we did the bulk sample in 2018 and completed in early 2019. We wanted to demonstrate the bulk mineable potential of these main Gabbro zones. These are high-grade shear zones near surface. And the red areas that you see in here is basically what we did in the bulk sample. These are the developments that we continued to develop during that period and took some stopes. The bulk sample generated about 33,000 tons of 18.5 grams a ton. That's a fully diluted from these bulk stopes. Typical stopes ranged about 4,000 tons. And in some of the stopes actually had, 38 grams a ton fully diluted. But what was more important in there is that during the bulk sample, we also developed this exploration drift where we continue to follow up on our recent discovery of the Area 51 as well as the Tabasco Cayenne shear zones at depth. More importantly, this infrastructure allows us to do some near-term production from this main Gabbro zone and be able to continue doing exploration on the bigger projects, which is the lower Tabasco, Cayenne, and the Area 51. So talk about Tabasco Cayenne zones. These are high-grade shear zones that are trending northwest-southeast, and they're dipping pretty steeply south. And they're hosted in sediment along this Jeremy Pluton, which is a Jeremy diorite. And essentially what happens is these Tabasco and Cayenne zones in the sediment in the upper areas, because they're in more of a ductile environment, they're shear zones that are narrow but high grade. But when they get into these host environments of the Gabbro intrusives and the Jeremy diorite in here, they start to get into the more brittle environments and essentially open up these veins. And you can see some of these high-grade zones, such as like 48 meters of 22 grams a ton, 10 meters of 32 grams a ton. And then these Tabasco zones on, this is 75 meter over the next section to the left. And you can see that you still have these high-grade zone in the Tabasco, but behind it, another shear zone, which is 11 meters of 17 grams a ton. And just about 260 meters below that, we got about 15 meters of over 24 grams a ton, which was released yesterday in a press release. So you can see it's a large gold system in here, particularly in these two shear zones of Tabasco and Cayenne. And so far we've tested them about 600-700 meters along strike, and they seem to be continuous. However, it still requires more infill drilling because most of our drilling are about 75-meter step outs. In these gold systems, 75 is pretty aggressive. But we'll continue to do the expansion of these zones along strikes and to depth, but more importantly, also do infill drilling for a planned mineral maiden resource, basically in late 2021 or mid 2021. This is a long section of Tabasco in terms of perspective as to what kind of endowment could this Tabasco shear zone alone have. So far, it's been drilled extensively to 75 meter step outs, over 600 meters strike length, roughly about 500 meter down plunge. And you can see the type of grades that we're seeing in here. The dark purple you can see is over 100 gram metal factor. And then you can see the lower purple, or the lighter purple, is about a 10 gram metal factor. You can see that this is potentially roughly about 500 meters strike down to about 500 meter vertical or down plunge. The average true thickness in here is about 10 to 12 meters, and the weighted average grade of this whole zone so far drilled is between 8 to 10 grams a ton. So you can see the type of metal endowment that you could have just in that shear zone alone. And then behind that, to the north, you see, we're starting to see a similar sort of sort of a shear zone in the Tabasco, and this is where you can see the Tabasco long section, which is still requires more drilling, but in the background, what we've got is the same Tabasco outlines in here, and you can see that we're going to follow up on some of these high grades, hoping to be able to add to the potential ounces within these two shear zones. This is just about 590 meter level. You can see the high grade Tabasco zones in here, and just roughly about 100 meters to the north, you can see the Cayenne zone starting to shape up. So this is exciting for us. We know that in the resource we certainly be able to include the Tabasco and Cayenne as part of the whole resource from this gold system. Let's talk about the Area 51, because this is an area that was discovered. We drilled through the Area 51 going towards Tabasco and Cayenne and to the main Gable. So all of our drilling is pretty effective. We drill from south to north. This is pretty well the best sort of angle for these drill holes to be able to intersect these sort of east-west zones in the Area 51, and then continue to intersect the Tabasco and go into the Cayenne and then the main Gable. But we've so far identified roughly about 28 veins in the Area 51, probably in about 7 or 8 corridors, which we've named them. You can see the names in here. But it's been tested over 600 by 500 meter area. And more importantly, we also see that the drilling that Balmoral had done about 500 meters south of us continues to show the same type of an Area 51 mineralization continuing down an extra 500 meters to the south. Just a bit of a more information on this Area 51. We see Area 51 being two types of mineralization. Two types of sort of resource type mineralization. One would be the near surface open pittable. As you can see in here, these are the sections 975 and 900, which are further to the west. And you can see as this deposit on the west side starts to be appearing right near surface, really amenable to the open pittable type of a resource. And then at depth, it starts to show that there are good intersections of mineable grades and mineable widths in the Area 51. We talk about the underground high grade potential of this Area 51, which is what we're excited about. We see that this not only has, this is at surface about the top 100 meter. You can see that on the west side is starting to shape up to be a near surface type deposit, and this is 500 meter below that. And you can see in here that this Area 51 veins continue to be dipping to the northeast, getting closer to the high-grade Tabasco area. So the mining of a Tabasco Cayenne could be potentially 150,000 ounce a year type of a production scenario. But more importantly, very little development is required to get into these Area 51 veins and continue to mine those selectively to add to that potential production profile. So this continues to be our focus as well this year and next year, and we'll continue to do not only expansions of these because they're wide open to the west, and also the infill drilling in here to actually demonstrate that resource potential within this area. We see the potential for this Area 51 to be as much or better than the Tabasco zone so far. So just to wrap up on our exploration program for this year and next year, we expect to be drilling roughly about 100,000 meters total on this Fenelon and surrounding properties. About 80,000 meters of it would be within this smaller box, following up on our Tabasco Area 51 Cayenne zones. And the other 20,000 meters is going to be carried out to do exploration, following up on some of the Balmoral recent. Prior to the acquisition, Balmoral had discovered this Reaper zone and that followed up on this Ripley zone. So our focus is to not only follow up on these zones, but more importantly, we see this bend in here within the Jeremy Pluton, and it's demonstrating so far, and we'll continue to drill in there, that it seems to be that the Area 51 type veins continue along this belt, along this bend into the Jeremy Pluton. So we'll continue to follow up on those with a couple of drills that we have within this larger box, and the 4 drills will be continuing to drilling in this Area 51 Tabasco zones. Following up on that, our secondary focus would still be on other properties that we acquired from Balmoral as a result of that acquisition. One of them happens to be this Martinier. Martinier is about 30 kilometers to the west of Fenelon and about 30 kilometers east of Detour. So it's roughly about halfway between our property and the Detour Gold, or Kirkland Lakes Detour project. And in this area, the Balmoral exploration definitely had demonstrated that there's a large gold system, but the majority of the focus was based on a near surface open pitable type deposit. And you can see in here that the majority of the drilling was done above 400 meters. But really, when we see from our Fenelon experience that the major higher grade, thicker intersections at our Fenelon really started around that depth. And we can see some of the high grade potential in this area. For example, they had 5 meters of 14 grams a ton, or 7.8 meters of 117 grams a ton. That really was not followed based on a high grade potential from underground. So our focus at Martinier would certainly be in looking at this deposit more from an underground high grade resource potential rather than a near surface open pitable. We do have, as a result of previous focus for the company, we have our copper nickel PGM assets in Sudbury, as well as some of the copper nickel PGM assets that we acquired through the Balmoral acquisition. We do intend to have a spin out of our copper nickel PGM assets into a separate vehicle, because we understand that different investors for gold as well, versus the copper nickel PGM. And we're hoping that once the resource and the PEA on the Denison property, which we own about 20% of, is completed, hoping in the third quarter of this year or perhaps early fourth quarter, that we'd be able to start talking about and putting together that spin out for those assets, and let our shareholders have a share of both and decide which one they want to keep in. This is